Mazikeen again. Wasn't a long day, so she's not tired. We're going over waking up the handler from a nightmare. So this is another one of those things that it depends on your symptoms. She is off leash, by the way. She does pretty good off leash, so I trust her, especially since I have food. Anyways, it's one of those things that it depends on your symptom, your signs, what can the dog pick up on, if you're someone who kicks, if you're someone who screams, if you're someone who, I don't know, kind of thrashes around, whatever your symptoms or the signs of a nightmare is physically, that's what the dog can pick up on. This is also another one of those things that not every dog is going to do, because again, if your dog is like my dogs, they don't get up at night. They are a very heavy sleeper at night. So it does depend on your dog. Basically, you're going to do the same thing I would tell you to do to get your dog to alert to you at night, because in this case it is response. A lot of people, what you want them to do is to lay on top of you, unless you're someone who may harm your dog if they were to get on top of you, in which case you don't want to have them do that, because we don't want you to hurt your dog. You can teach them different things if you're someone who could possibly harm the dog just from responding out of a nightmare. You can have them go for your leg or your feet or your hands if they're far away from your body, just to protect the dog and keep them safe from you. So if you wanted them to paw at you, you're going to do the paw alert that I showed in the alerting video. So just be good girl. You're just going to teach them paw like that. Reference the alerting video to see how I achieve the pawing. That's what you're going to do, and then you'll start simulating that when you're laying down. Act like you're
It's me. So I kind of messed up what I was saying there, but basically I was saying act like you're asleep, and if you do move and things like that, go ahead and show those symptoms and ask for the paw after your dog notices what you're doing. That way they understand that means paw, and when I paw when you're doing that, I get a treat. That's basically all you're going to do. Just make sure you're showing the symptoms to the dog and make sure that they're understanding why they're pawing at you.
So do keep in mind that some dogs are going to do this naturally and you may not have to teach it. Some dogs are not going to be a natural at this. They're just going to think you're dreaming, because when they dream, they kick too. So to them, it's just like you're asleep. If you're wanting them to do pressure, you're going to teach them deep pressure or light pressure therapy. That also has its own separate video, so reference that to learn how to. Basically what you do is do your typical symptoms, then ask for pressure. My signal for pressure is this. I'm not going to get on the ground right now, but basically whatever your signal is, go ahead and do that while you're laying down to kind of show what you're asking of them. Basically just signal DPT or LPT. If you use both, then you want to have two different signals for each of them, because they're not the same thing. LPT is light pressure therapy, usually meaning the head, the front of the paw, so like here down onto the dog. If it goes to the elbows, that's deep. That's when it starts being considered deep pressure therapy. So light pressure therapy is just less pressure. Deep pressure therapy is usually the elbows. At least the elbows are on you, and usually half the body weight is on you. And there's a whole video on that, so you can go ahead and reference that video. That's basically what you're going to do. You're going to teach them that, but you're going to simulate it as if it were a nightmare. That's what I would do. At first, you can do it during the early morning time when the dog may be a little more energetic after they've been let out and fed. Act like you're going back to bed. Have the dog get up there with you, and then ask for what you need. And then you can start doing it later at night. Once they have it down in the morning, when they have more energy, you can start doing it later at night when they have less energy. Mazikeen is not a morning person nor a night person. She's a midday person. Up until like 10 o'clock, she really doesn't move much in the morning. And then at night, like 10 o'clock at night, she's dead again. So for her, I would wait until probably like 12 o'clock to start training. It just depends on your dog. So whenever your dog has the most energy, do it then. Act like you're going to go back to bed. And then whenever your dog has the least energy, once they have it down for the most energy, that's when you would start working that. It's not easy because they're tired and they don't want to do it. And for most dogs, when they're tired, they're not as willing to work. Some dogs are super treat motivated, like my lab Gage. Even though he is really tired, he will still get up for treats. Masking. Yeah, I mean that's pretty much it for it. Really, it's just teaching them whatever you need, whether it be you need them to paw, you need them to nudge, you need them to do DPT or LPT while you're in the nightmare. Whatever it is, go ahead and teach them that during the day as a normal alert, or for DPT, LPT, that's a response, so as a normal response. technically, I guess this would technically be alerting because you're not really aware of what you're doing. That would be considered alerting. Response is you know what you're doing, but you're telling but the dog is responding to it, so you know what's happening. It's hard to explain, but basically alerting is you don't know what's going on, the dog is telling you something's wrong, and response is you already know something's wrong, but the dog is helping you. And basically all you're going to do, choose some DPT, LPT, again, whatever you decide to use, and then apply that to a simulated nightmare. Make sure you know your symptoms. Most people don't know their nightmare symptoms because they're asleep, so ask someone to observe you or ask someone to tell you, especially if you have a significant other. They may be able to tell you what goes on, or even if you have a kid, sometimes people let their kids sleep in their beds and their kid may notice it. So just have someone, whether it be a best friend, someone you're comfortable with, so that hopefully it won't push you into a further nightmare, but someone you're comfortable with, kind of observe you, kind of stay with you for the night, and see exactly what you do, because that's what you need to know, that to be able to train the dog to respond or alert to it. Anyways, I think that's it. It seems really easy. It can be, depends on the dog. It's one of those iffy things. The dog may be good girl. She just alerted. Good girl. The dog may be good at it, it may not, it just depends on your dog. So for some dogs it may take a little longer, for some dogs they may get it pretty fast. Don't feel bad or like you're not doing it right just because your dog is taking a little bit longer than most dogs. Just make sure you're taking it slow and you're making sure that they got it down in other scenarios besides when they're really, really tired. That's the last step you want to take, is teaching them to do it when they're tired. You can't.
So she wasn't alerting to the tree bag, she was alerting to me because shortly after the video ended, I passed out.
Anyways, yeah, just take it really, really slow. Do it through different scenarios. The last step you should take is doing it when the dog is more tired, or when the dog is typically more tired. That's when it's going to get harder because you're working with an extremely tired dog. While I do recommend exercising your dog before doing...
Here she alerts again, and I ignore it again.
Before doing any sort of training, I don't mean exhausted tired, I just mean getting them a little more tired so they're not bursting with energy, because that's going to be hard to train too, because they're so distracted by everything, because they're just like, I want to run around and have fun. So just make sure they're kind of at that medium temperature for most of the time when you're training for this. Again, start with the medium energy level, and then you can start slowing it down to when they may be exhausted or really thinking they need to sleep. That should be everything. I think I got everything. If I didn't, let me know in the comments. Questions, comments, concerns, go in the comments. Girl, necklace. Oh, girl. As always, we love you.